This is the Saturday edition of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Now, Sean, our Saturday show is all about the two of us each nominating what we think is the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, the sleeper story, and our favourite story. Usually, we then like to try and pick a winner between the two of us. This week, we are making a bit of a change because we often struggle to agree on a winner, and I'll declare myself the winner and then you don't like that. And anyway, we thought it's safer to bring in an independent adjudicator from the Fear and Greed team. Adam Lang, are you ready? Are you feeling impartial, Adam?
The voice of reason. I'm ready.
All right, well, let's jump straight into it. Are you happy, first of all, Sean, with Adam being the deciding vote on who wins this week?
Compared to you being the deciding vote? Absolutely.
All right, fair call. Fair call. Well,
I'm starting out ahead.
I'm going to start off this week with the biggest story, if that's okay, Sean.
Yep.
And just try and get in early and curry some favour with Adam, because this is something that we've talked about a lot, and we've said this plenty of times, that it's hard to beat unemployment as the biggest story of the week, because there are few things as important in life as having a job. The numbers this week, whichever way you look at them, were spectacular. 4% unemployment in February. That's the lowest since 2008. 14 years. That's amazing. Jobs rose by 77,000, a record participation rate. And the best part is, and the thing that makes this so incredible, is that it's not expected to stop there. Stand by for a sub 4% unemployment rate in the next month or two. This is the biggest story of the week, because it's always a good time to have a job, but now it's a great time as well to be looking for one, because there is so much demand out there. There are jobs on offer. It is the biggest story of the week. I reckon I've made a convincing case to Adam, but Sean, what was yours?
No, that's a great story. It's a big story, not of the week though, Michael. This has been going on for months.
Oh.
Can't say this is the biggest story of the week. The biggest story of the week, the thing that changed this week in the world of economics, was the US Federal Reserve lifting interest rates. Hasn't done it for 3 years. The Fed was very overt in how many rate rises it will do this year, one each Fed meeting. There are 7 meetings in a year. That'll take rates to about between 1.75% and 2% in the US, and that'll be enough, the Fed says. Why this is such a massive story, apart from the fact that it's the first time they've lifted rates this cycle, is just what it did to markets. It calmed markets. Now, normally, when rates start rising, shares fall, but that's not what happened this week. They actually rose. That's because the market was relieved that the Fed had a plan, laid out that plan, and said, we only need 1.75 or 2% as our top interest rate before we stop lifting rates. The markets this week were calmer than they have been for months. That's why the Fed lifting interest rates is the biggest story of the week. Adam, pressure is on you.
They're both massive stories, but on an international scale, the US interest rates has the win as the biggest story of the week for me. The employment numbers here are massive, as in record-breaking, but the US interest rates decision has it.
I'm doing a jig behind my microphone here, Michael.
I'm already regretting the decision to set up an independent adjudicator, because I just don't agree with the adjudicator. But anyway, I will accept his decision and we'll move on to... Yeah, definitely begrudgingly. We'll move on to the most remarkable story of the week. Sean, why don't you go first? Because I reckon I will have the second person advantage with this.
What I find really interesting is how war is being wagered in a technology world. Now, remember, this is the first major conflict, Russia-Ukraine, that we've had since the rise of technology. And it's no longer just about military might. What's remarkable is how this is being fought away from the military. So a few stories this week. Apple and Google and others have been called on to keep operating within Russia. That way, ordinary Russians will be able to access news outside official channels. They want the big tech companies, the US authorities want the big tech companies to step up their efforts to disseminate information. We know that since the war began, Russia's imposed new laws penalising speech. That's pretty much knocked out the major independent news sites. We know the top downloaded apps in Russia have been Telegram, WhatsApp and Threema, all ways of sharing unapproved news. We know Volodymyr Zelensky, the head of Ukraine, the president of Ukraine, has been ferocious in his use of social media. We also know the number of cyber attacks have surged since the war began, and indeed they've surged over the last 12 months or so. Put all that together, what I find remarkable is that this war isn't just a military war, it's a technology war as well. And that's the first time in history, Michael, I'll say that again, first time in history that's occurred. Remarkable. Beat that.
I'm just going into this now with a bad feeling because I didn't know
that Adam's an internationalist too. Adam loves big picture.
Fear not, Michael. Go ahead.
You know what? I reckon I'm going to go ultra parochial here now and see if I can target something for Adam that will really get him. Now, just keep in mind.
It's not just about me, Michael.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely just about you here, because keep in mind that Adam lives in the eastern states of Australia and you're originally from WA and you've got a lot of family back there. You haven't seen them for a long time. So
this isn't about Adamski, Michael. This is about the most remarkable story of the week. Stop buttering him up.
I've got to do something because your stories are really good. Okay, my most remarkable story this week is the surge in COVID numbers, which
We're in a pandemic.
Okay.
How can the most remarkable story be a surge in COVID numbers? Look, I'll better shut up. I'm being unfair here. Please,
well,
Michael,
especially when you consider that last week I used the same story as my sleeper story of the week, because last week nobody was really paying attention to the surge in COVID numbers because everyone was talking about Ukraine. Everyone was talking about all the other stuff that was happening, the floods. And now the numbers have really started to surge. Everybody is talking about it now. And this is why it's the most remarkable, because around the country, we're seeing numbers spiking in a really big way. Thousands of cases. States like Tasmania and WA, Adam, seeing some of their highest numbers so far in the pandemic. And part of the reason, obviously, is the substrain of the Omicron variant, which is more transmissible, but it does appear to be less severe. There's also a lot more movement as well of people between states, like, for example, between the eastern states going over to see family in Western Australia, for example, which is a very good thing, and people should be able to do that. Anyway, the other part of the COVID story this week that I thought was remarkable with the stats from the ABS, that in the past month, almost half of all Australians have taken a COVID test. People are getting used to sticking things up their nose, it would seem. 17% said someone in their household had tested positive. It shows a couple of things. Number one, the importance of being vaccinated and getting a booster. And also, we're learning to live with COVID now, which is not something that you would have ever thought possible a year ago, really even kind of 2 years ago at the beginning of the pandemic, that we are now kind of living alongside COVID, and that this surge in numbers this week, that we're seeing thousands of cases and yet we aren't seeing the economy shut down. I think that is the most remarkable story of the week.
Adamski, over to you.
Okay, so yes, they both do qualify as remarkable, but I do think that COVID has been around for a while now, and this was going to happen. So while it's important to report on, I don't know that it's that remarkable that it's happening. Whereas war and technology have always played a hand. Superior tech has always helped win wars. But what I think is remarkable in this story is that the consumer has the power of technology in their hand. And the social media, the visual reporting, the text reporting, the sound reporting is just immense and so fast. So I think Sean wins on war with technology.
And what's the score so far now?
That would be
Adam?
2 to Sean, and yet to trouble the scorers, Michael.
Okay, well, we'll be back in a moment. Don't know whether Adam will be rejoining us on the other side of this. All right, Sean, we are looking now for the sleeper story of the week. So this is the story that maybe isn't getting the attention that it deserves, or is going to become a bigger story in the future. You are leading 2-0 at the moment. Do you want to go first again? You may as well just get it over and done with.
Sure. My sleeper story for the week was the one from Prime Minister Scott Morrison. He made the comment that fossil fuel industries will be around for decades and demand for coal will rise until at least 2030. He said it's necessary to run big coal-fired power stations for as long as we can to ensure we have power as the transition to renewable occurs. His point is that you can't turn off coal-fired power stations because then there wouldn't be enough energy to run the economy, and we're talking about electricity in homes and businesses here. Why I think this is a sleeper story is because it really shows that fundamentally the coalition is just not pushing hard enough into renewables. Philosophically, the Prime Minister isn't behind the shift. There's no real value judgment here from my point of view. There's very good reason to focus on gas, though I don't think there's many reasons to focus on coal because it is so dirty, but there's very good reasons to focus on gas for the next couple of decades as the transition to renewables occurs. But it does mean that unlike European powers, this government has done nowhere near as much as it could to speed up the shift to renewables. This is a really challenging task for any government. We've got an election coming up, so maybe we get a new government and things change. But where we stand now, what I thought was remarkable was his comments, the Prime Minister's comments about pushing coal. It really didn't get any attention this week because so much else was going on. That's why it's the sleeper story of the week.
That is a good story. It is a sleeper story. It is not the sleeper story of the week.
Oh, surprising you say that, Michael. Go on. What's yours?
Well, the sleeper story this week that I thought was the biggest one, and it did get a little bit of attention, just as yours did, but this could well become a much bigger issue for businesses in Australia. It's the whole question over whether casual workers should get paid sick leave. So Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews announced a trial of paid sick leave for more than 150,000 workers. This is across actually quite a wide range of sectors. You've got hospitality, supermarkets, retail, security, cleaning, food services, aged, disability care. So pretty comprehensive. And the way it works is you apply for the guarantee and you can get 5 days sick pay a year at the minimum wage. Why is it a sleeper? Because it blurs that line between casual and part-time or full-time employment. And this comes just a few weeks after the High Court in Canberra ruled that if your contract says you're a casual and you're not entitled to the benefits of being a permanent or a full-time worker, even if you're working consistent hours. So business doesn't like this new trial. And even some union leaders are now saying that instead of relieving job insecurity, it could actually make it more permanent. This is a 2-year trial. It's had a pretty controversial start considering it was only announced this week. And considering the impact that this could have long term, it has the potential to set a precedent and entirely change the relationship between employers and casual workers. And look, Adam, you used to be the CEO of an ASX listed company, and I'm sure you've had plenty of experience in dealing with casual workers and full-time workers. Something like this is a pretty big story, wouldn't you say?
Adam, give us an adjudication.
An independent adjudication on the two stories. So the sleeper story of the coalition and coal, I think it just is evocative of Scott Morrison being in Parliament with a lump of coal, of being dragged over to the COP26 meeting virtually. So it doesn't really surprise me that he's made those comments. I don't think it's politically the most astute thing to do, but I do think Michael has this one on the sleeper story. The reason being, it's this nexus of federal and state rules over employment that are so confusing anyway. And this just adds to the confusion. So I think if were it not for so many things going on in the rest of the world and Australia at the moment, this would have been a bigger story, and I think it probably will become one.
I'm happy to concede that, Michael. That's a fair call.
And can I just get a quick score update, please, Adam?
Sean is 2 and Michael 1. Coming back with a wet sail, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I would just like to add, you can't really adjudicate on someone's favourite story.
Very difficult.
But
your can you make it our favourite? Me on behalf of the audience.
Well, yes, but I just don't think. I think I've won this 2-1 because favourite story. How do you adjudicate on someone's? No, you're wrong. That's not your favourite story.
Oh my God, this is like trying to change the rules midway
through. Is he conceding already?
Yeah. No, I'll tell you what. The way this works is that yes, these are our favourite stories.
You make the rules, and that's what we do.
They just have to be our favourite to get into this episode. And then Adam can just base his adjudication on which one he likes more,
his
which
favourite
will be
story,
mine.
fair enough.
Yeah, his favourite out of our 2.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, I'll go first, shall I?
Please.
Because you cannot go past this week the daylight saving story out of the US. So the US Senate has passed a bill to make daylight saving permanent from next year. So the clocks are going to stay forward an hour all year round. It's not a done deal just yet. It still has to pass the House of Reps, then be signed into law by the president. But there are three things, and I'll make them very quick, three things that make this story my favorite. One is the arguments for and against. They range from the economic arguments, including that golf courses will do more business, through to the medical arguments, like studies that claim there's a slight rise in heart attacks and strokes whenever the time changes, whenever they have to flip forward or flip back. The second thing I like is that some states have already legislated the change in the US, while others want to wait, how about this, until neighbouring states all decide to do the same. So they don't really have the farcical situation we have in Australia of Queensland being on a different time zone to New South Wales and Victoria. My favourite thing overall, though, is the name of the bill. It is the Sunlight Protection Act. How cute is that? It is just, what an adorable name to give to a bill before the Senate. I just think you just tick all those boxes, tick, 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 and that is the sound of me getting the point for this one. Sean, what's yours?
I love the idea, Sunlight Protection Act. I don't know that they realise that actually moving time forward or back does nothing in terms of sunlight. We're still getting the same amount of sunlight every day.
It is fantastic, isn't it? It's just such...
I loved the senator in New York. He came out and he said, look, I understand this isn't the biggest issue facing Americans today, but it's very funny. Look, I'll tell you my favourite story. That is a great story. So, I mean, I'm happy to, I'm certainly not conceding mine's better, but I'm happy to go half a point here. Mine was all about Uber's delivery business in Australia now being bigger than its ride-sharing business because retailers, looking for a competitive advantage, are trying to get delivery within the hour to shoppers. Now, we're not talking food here. We're talking about clothes and other goods. Uber has done a deal with logistics group ShipIt to allow retailers like Sephora, Kathmandu, Big W, Target, the super retail groups in that, so too Harvey Norman, to deliver within the hour. You go online, you order your goods, you get the quote for the delivery and the estimated time of arrival. As part of the shopping trolley, you click send or buy, and suddenly goods are there within the hour. Now, we know Australians spent a record $50 billion online in 2020, probably a lot more by now. Easily the hardest part of that is fulfillment, particularly that last mile between the shop and the home. There's a bunch of companies trying to fill that role. Uber, Amazon and DoorDash are the international guys. We've got local guys like Menulog, Deliveroo and Australia Post. There's also some new players. I just think it's fantastic, though, that I'm going to be able to go shopping for something, particularly clothing, those impulse buys. You buy it and it'll be there within the hour. That's why it's my favourite story.
Adam, you now have a decision to make, and none of this half-point rubbish that Sean was trying to do, because he knows that a half point will still secure the victory for him. I want a full point or nothing at all. Let's hear it.
Okay. So, Michael, I'm actually a bit surprised that you didn't choose the home delivery story because you're such a fan of the online shopping. US daylight saving, the Sunlight Protection Act is hilarious. But for me, the favourite story is the Uber and home delivery service. I think that is remarkable in terms of what we've seen in the last sort of 10 years or 5 years, the convenience of being able to shop from your desktop. It's amazing.
Really is lovely to have you part of the Saturday show now, Adam.
I think that's a one-sided response, Sean.
Adam, I have to ask this. Does Sean have pictures of you, or is there money changing hands or something? Because
3-1, Michael. No one likes a sore loser.
No, that's fine. Well, we'll be back again next week without Adam, when I can just claim victory for myself.
I do apologise, Michael. It was a very close and good contest on each.
Well, thank you for adjudicating, and congratulations, Sean, on your victory on our first official Saturday show featuring Adam Lang.
It's hard, isn't it, to say that, Michael?
Oh, it actually was. It really, really hurt. I'm glad you can appreciate how tough that was for me, but well done.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks, Michael.
And thank you, Adam, for adjudicating. Don't forget that tomorrow, Sean and Adam and I will all be back tomorrow to have a bit of a lighter look at some of the news around the place for our Safe Word edition. I'm Michael Thompson. Have a good Saturday and a great weekend.